Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the season finale for Tier 1. Drivers, oh, someone's just left the lobby. Not too certain who is. Unfortunately, numbers are looking a little low. Season finale, rules we have at Phoenix, we do restrict the number of reserves. Of course, if we have any new drivers, for example, myself, I'm not new, but I don't have a clean record. Therefore, I can't reserve into Tier 1. But if, let's say, I don't know, Joe Bloggs from down the street, new to join F123, would like to race in Tier 1, because we have a championship fight, unfortunately, the reserves are not permitted. We have got, as I have mentioned, a championship on the table. Now, Soybean already has stormed ahead of the pack. He has outscored everyone by a country mile. But the question on the table for today is who's going to win the Constructors. Now, people aren't readying up. I'm just going to go ahead and ping the ready up roll because I don't know why people are not readying up. Come on, folks, let's get on with it. We are 3 minutes past the hour. We have got ourselves a sprint race at Imola to close out the season. And to be honest, I think out of all of the tracks we could have chosen, a sprint race at Imola is by far one of the best options that we could have considered, or the team could have considered. I can't take credit for the calendar. The team chose the calendar. We follow along with the real-life calendar as closely as we can, and it just so happens we land on the great Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. For those of you who have not seen it, it happened, what is that now, 6 hours ago is when the race started. 4.5 hours ago, the race finished. I will do my best, as I said to the drivers in the race briefing, I'll do my best to try and avoid spoilers, but I cannot help it. Imola is by far one of my favourite tracks, it's one of my famous tracks. I actually got one of my best podiums going from the back of the grid to third place or second place at Imola, and I've had heartbreak at Imola. So there's a lot of history for this track for myself, and I'm sure there's going to be history in the making for today's race. Because as I mentioned, Constructors is still on the table. Let's have a quick look. Let's have a look at the standings whilst we wait for one-shot quality. The drivers have a moment to set up their cars, get their gear into motion, basically. But the Constructors, let's have a look for Tier 1 after round 8. We've got Ferrari in... Nope, that is Tier 2. Whoopsies. It is Red Bull in the lead. Apologies. Red Bull in the lead with 186 points. With Aston Martin in P2 with 159. Ferrari with 139 in P3. Then it is Mercedes with 125. And I'm just going to go through the order. We have McLaren in P5. Haas in P6. Alpine in P7. Alfa Romeo, Williams, and AlphaTauri to finish out the 10 teams. And unfortunately, AlphaTauri have only scored 4 points this season, and hopefully their team principal, who is on the track again for tonight's race, we can see him put in an absolute super drive with 2 races on the table for points. There is potential for AlphaTauri to finally hit the double digits, and there is also potential, I say potential, realistically, it's going to happen. Red Bull are going to comfortably get into the 200s. They only need 14 points, and with 34 points on the table for this race, and they have 2 drivers on the table. But though I do believe Boosty is a last-minute reserve, unfortunately, as last-minute reserves, unconfirmed reserves, they are not permitted to score points for their for the reserving team. So Red Bull only have 1 driver on the track today. We're going to spectate him for his qualifying lap as he goes through Imola, round that beautiful hairpin, now up the hill for the second sector. As Mr. Goat retires from the session, he's going to start in P12. Now coming through the left-hander, really got to be careful. Track limits in this game, track limits in real life are very lenient, but track limits in the game are very harsh. Soybean through the uphill, almost slid out. He's down in P10 though. Soybean is quite far off. I think he might have, I have a funny feeling, if I have a look at the track map, he's going to have invalidated his lap he has, which is why he is at the bottom. So actually, on pole, we're going to have a look and see what can Cos, Sylvie or Rico do. Driving in for Aston Martin and for Ferrari with 1 corner left to go. Cos Sylvie's currently in the lead. And I think, is it going to be an Aston Martin on pole? It is. A 1:14.198, an incredible lap for Carl Silva with Rico in P2 with a 1:14.355, and Mr. Boosty for P3 with a 1:14.541. In fact, the top four are all within half a tenth of each other, or half a second, sorry, within each other, and it is 1.5 seconds splitting the grid. There it is. The AlphaTauri team principal puts it in for P8, so an incredible one-shot quali. And Adrian with a superb P6. Now the driver quickly promoted from Tier 2 to Tier 1 quite recently. I think it was in the past week or 2 weeks he got promoted up to Tier 1. And driver was thinking he was only going to get barely into the top 10. He didn't have high hopes for his pace into Tier 1, but this really does prove it. Mind you, a fair few drivers unfortunately hit track limits, and with one-shot quali, you don't have an opportunity to take a second go or have a second shot at it. But still, a great effort from Adrian, putting it in for P6 for the season finale. Now, this is where it all gets exciting. We have ourselves the sprint race. Drivers have an opportunity to set up their cars for this sprint race. I believe it is going to be, I want to say it's 11 laps if I recall correctly. So in Tier 2, drivers opted to go for the soft tyres. Though, if you wish to save the softs, you can go on for the medium. Save the softs for the full race. 32 laps around Imola, starting in the wet for the full race. So there's a lot in the air, there's a lot on the table, and a lot can change. Who's it going to be? We're going to wait for the clock to strike for 8:10. And I will signal the drivers to start getting ready for this first race of the evening. 11 laps, 1 minute 15, let's say, per lap. It's going to be a very quick 12 minutes of racing, but with 8 points on the table for P1, all the way down to P8 with 1 point. Everything can happen, and nothing can happen. In one sprint race, it could decide the Constructors' Championship for some drivers, or it could improve their chances to be in the battle, in the fight, to go for it. And they've already readied up, and we're going to have those 5 red lights. And away we go for the sprint race. We've actually got a driver missing, I believe, on the left-hand side there. Nope, there's just a kink in the road. Very odd track, Imola, for the first corner. They've already gone past it. It's the kink going left, but Carl Silvi still in the lead. Side by side with Rico. Barely any time between the pair of them. But now through the first corner, we've got an incident there. And it looks like it is Soybean, Ryan Gosling. There's a number of drivers all involved. We have a quick look through the grid. And I think actually it is the two McLarens, the team principal and teammate for McLaren, were involved in a first lap incident as Cos Silvi continues on to lead this race as we come through the hairpin now. Rico in P2, Boosty up into P3. In P3. Where is the positions? There it is, and Julian with an absolute blitz start. Up 6 places, Soybean up 4, Mr. Goat, JPJ, and Adrian up 1 place. Adrian up to P5, an incredible race so far for him. As JPJ, Mr. Goatens, and the AlphaTauri team principal, MZ Zolt, all slot into order again. For the first lap now, though, we've got 2 corners left to go. DRS section zone won't be enabled till the end of the second lap. Unfortunately, unlike real life, we don't get that update where at the end of the first lap, DRS enabled. No, for us, it is at the end of the second lap that DRS is enabled, and the 2 drivers here with no front wing are fighting for position. JPJ and Mr. Goat fighting as hard as they can. And now onto the pits. Mr. Goat's going to remain ahead. They're going to try and go too wide into the pits. That is very dangerous, but somehow they have come out still with all 4 tyres on the car. But this is the big thing here. Cos Silvi has run away with the lead so far. If you look at the tyres, Mix, JPJ and Goat obviously are going to go on the softs now, but Mix is the only driver who started on the softs and still going, staying in P4 at the moment, but Rico is losing time. He's under pressure and Boosty behind. Don't need the possible race strategies. It is a 0-stop race. Unfortunately for Mr. Goat and JPJ, suffering a first lap collision. They're going to have to be at the back of the grid for this sprint race. But safety cars can still happen. They can still come back into the fight. anything can happen through the chicane. Beautiful attack of the curbs. Purple second sector. Cos Sylvie is on fire. And let's switch away from him for a moment as he continues to run away with it, with Boosty and Mix all closing in the gap on one another, trying to go for the move. Can Mix, in 9 laps left to go, 8 laps in just a moment, DRS will be enabled. He's got an 8.5 tenth gap to the drivers ahead of him. Can he put himself in a position to score more than, what is that, 5 points? Currently on the table. DRS enabled. There it is, the message from the race director as Julian, without the need of DRS, just pure pace and pure wonder, he gets through ahead on the straight. Drivers, as far as I'm aware, should be running fairly high downforce setups on this circuit. In recent months, I quickly learnt that the going meta in this game is to have the high downforce, knowing that the DRS is going to be incredibly powerful and help push you past and ahead of drivers that you are battling with. So I think it will be quite surprising if Julian's running, or even it might be a strategic move for Julian to run lower wings to have that straight line speed, knowing that he get through the corners with ease. Do take my comments on the setup with a grain of salt. Unfortunately, I started my F1 League racing career. This is something that no one actually really knows about my League racing career, but I started out using Steam Workshop setups. So I didn't actually quite understand the difference that, esports setups really make on the car, especially with me being a controller player. So these drivers, I think the majority of them, if not all of them, are on the wheel. All of them have some fancy setups, or even some basic rigs with the Logitech, but the Logitech, those wheels are still incredible. They're a massive upgrade over a controller, and they are all incredibly talented to have that pace. As Wobbie McQueen gets ahead of his teammate and his driver now. Driver swap between the pair of them. Can Wobbie McQueen close that gap down to the Alpha Team Principals? Team Principal versus Team Principal for the final point on the table. 7 laps left to go. Can Wobbie close that gap down? 4 seconds to score 1 point. That is the question that we are going to have to see today. If Wobbie McQueen can answer that call as his driver, just on the exit there of the chicane, not of the chicane, of the hairpin, sorry, almost loses the car. That was a bit of a fright for myself. I'm sure it was a much bigger fright for the driver himself, going through the downhill, uphill section, now coming down towards the chicane. The beautiful chicane where Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, so many drivers in the race this afternoon all went flying over for a good, millisecond or so, as Boosty now receives, the first driver to receive, a 3-second time penalty for track limits. That was actually something I was about to jump to. Coincidentally, like Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen over the chicanes, that track limit can absolutely hurt your race like there's no tomorrow. This circuit, unfortunately, as I found out when I was racing in F2 during our Friday series, we've got F2 running Fridays at 1900 UTC. My God, those cars are horrible to drive. Then again, I'm a horrible driver. But in that game, it was well agreed upon all drivers in that race that the track limits were an absolute nightmare on this circuit. So whilst these drivers are going to push the limits, and in real life the limits should be permitted that they are going to, the lengths of the track that they are taking, but unfortunately the game is very strict. You hit the white line and you are 4 wheels off of the white line, you are going to get hit with a warning if you gain a significant advantage. Well, I say significant advantage. Even if you gain a marginal advantage, you will get a penalty, as Mix, JPJ there for a second also got a penalty, but Mix, the second driver in the top 5 to get a 3-second time penalty for track limits. And unfortunately, again, another massive difference. Oh, lovely slide there from the Mercedes man. He seems to have a very slidey back end there in that third sector. Soybean puts in the fastest lap of 15.8 for the championship winner. May have the championship in hand, but he is still going to try and gun for that race victory. Make that championship trophy ever sweeter with a race victory to finish out the season. Not just any race victory, though, a sprint weekend race victory. He's still got quite a way to go to try and win this race. Cost Silvio with a 2-second gap. Look at that Mercedes. I have to say, slight tangent from the racing. I want to talk about the liveries for a second, because I'm excited to see if the new game has the new liveries. Of course, we've got no more Alfa Romeo. Unfortunately, Alfa Romeo has now gone. We then have the Stake F1 team, something along those lines. We've then got VCarb in place of Alpha Tauri. So the commentators, Martin Brundle and David Croft, who just say RB. The RB goes down the inside. So there's a lot of different changes, and I think it'll be quite an interesting change to the game. Having to shout, and here comes RB for the move. But all of that hangs in the balance of the game actually being any good. And as I continue to ramble on, the race does quieten down very quickly. I say that, actually, hold on a minute. Wobbie McQueen and Ryan Gosling have closed that gap down to AlphaTauri, to MZ Salt ahead. And actually, they've had a bit of a driver swap. Ryan Gosling is now on the chase with that DRS. He's pulling his team principal along. He's got a 4/10 gap now to the AlphaTauri driver. Is he going to be able to close that gap down enough to take the position? Could he go for it in here? He's not quite close enough. You can see that the AlphaTauri team principal... I keep saying AlphaTauri team principal instead of MZ Salt. I do apologise. But MZ's got a blinking red light at the back of his car. You can see it there again. And both McLarens don't have it. For a second there, I think Wobbie did, but it disappeared. But that will indicate that drivers are very low on the ERS. The battery deployment is basically null and void, as we do have a bit of a desync there. And I think Ryan Gosling's taking the position from MD Salt there. I'm very confused to what happened there. I think that might have just been a bit of a netcode, a bit of a EA being a fantastic game that we all love and enjoy to play every week, week in, week out, month in, month out. But Ryan Gosling now for P8 for that final point on the table, as Soybean gets ahead of his teammate Boosty, now on for P3, and the hunt is on. The championship leader, nay, the championship winner, is currently in P3, but are we going to see him go through for P2 as we have a yellow flag and both McLarens have retired? I saw for a moment I was about to switch to them. Wobbie McQueen and MZ Salt fighting for position going into the first corner though. Virtual safety car. Now I think that's going to be a full safety car. Both McLarens are out of the sprint race. I see a yellow car coming out of the pits. There it is. It's a full safety car. We're going to have a full safety car for one lap. The race is neutralized for one lap. And then we're going to get racing. But at the end of the sprint race, a battle for the final point on the table. Wobbie McQueen trying to go for a move on MZ Salt. And unfortunately, something happened between the three of them for both McLarens to retire. This now is a significant turn of events as Rico and Soybean capitalize hugely from this. Cos Silvi worked so hard, so tirelessly right off the start of the race. He built up a gap. He kept that gap. No driver was close enough. Rico's going to jump into the pits and grab himself a fresh set of softs. He's going to lose a number of positions, but he does lose half the time. Boosty goes through as well. Cos Silvi into the pits. Mix into the pits. Adrian into the pits. Interesting. Okay. That's not what I was expecting. I was about to say Cos Silvi's going to lose all of that gap that he's built, but no, Soybean is going to go ahead and take the lead of the race. Up 10 places. Julian goes through for P3 and Boosty for P2. Cos and Rico, and in fact, 4 drivers on the grid have all boxed for fresh softs. For only 2 laps of racing, they have 2 sectors to try and catch up before the safety car message comes up to say that they're going into the pits. And the engine is limited. It's Mr. Goat, not what you need. 5-second time penalty for speeding into the pit lane. Thankfully, only in P10. He doesn't lose anything further to that. But if he tries to gain positions, if he tries to fight for positions, that is going to drop him back to the to P10. No lower than the 2 McLarens, but still essentially, quintessentially, the end of the grid as Rico, Ferrari reserve, gets a 3-second time penalty under safety car for track limits. I'm speechless, I have to be honest. I did not expect drivers to be getting track limits under a safety car. But I guess when you got to push the limits, you got to try and catch up. But here we go. Let's put the telemetry on and let's have a quick look at Soybean's throttle and brake. He's going to be burning fuel. You can see that with 100% throttle and 50%, 40% brake. He's going to burn that fuel. He's going to lead the pack down to the second corner. Then you got the final corner. The two left-handers. I don't actually know the name of the corners, I'll be honest with you. But the two left-handers. He's half on the throttle. He's waiting. He's waiting. He's waiting. When is he going to pull the trigger? He's weaving tirelessly, trying to put heat in those tyres. He doesn't want to give the advantage to the drivers around him, and he's going to go, go, go. ERS is on, and the race is back on. We got a three-wide action already at the back, as Rico's going to try and go for a move. Can we get some helicopter cam? What is this? Come on. It looks like... Oh, it's difficult to say. Rico down the inside. He's going to try and go for a move on the Aston Martin, and two drivers have retired. Is Rico retiring, Julian retiring, JPJ retiring, Soybean continues on in the lead. I don't know what just happened. I really don't know what just happened. Rico trying to go for a move, but Cos Silvi on for P3. The soft tyres are working out in his favours. Alpha Tauri sitting in P4. MZ Zolt sitting in a very comfortable P4 at the moment. And every driver who finishes the race will now get a point. Jim, trying to go for a move is the answer. Honestly, I think you might be right there, Jim. I think you might be right. It was a if car gap kind of moment. Soybean dropping down a few places. I am missing a little bit of action here. As we go through the chicane, Soybean loses out 2 places. Cos Silvi goes through for the lead of the race yet again. Adrian's on the battle. He's gone ahead of MZ Zolt now for P4. Adrian is on fire. These softs are working out really well for him. Of course, the drivers ahead of him are on old mediums. The driver he's just passed, MZ Zolt, is on old mediums as well. So that's going to give him a massive advantage. But with 1 lap left to go, Adrian could look to score even more points for his final Tier 1 race of the season with Williams. I mean, I'd love to see him race with Williams again next season. It would be amazing. I'm certain he'll be in Tier 1 again because he has the pace, he has the confidence. Not only that, he has the knowledge to be able to keep up the pace and have the strategy in hand to go for these moves. Adrian, 3.5 tenths behind. Let's get rid of that telemetry. I completely forgot to get rid of that. But we're going to go through. Brizin would have won this one. Honestly, I feel like Brizin could have won this one as well. It's a shame a number of drivers couldn't make it for the season finale. And it looked there for a moment. Soybean went over the track limits there. But he gets through and ahead of his teammate, who's actually in the grass. His teammate's... Is that his front wing gone? It is. Soybean gets through for P2. His teammate has to cut the chicane. He can't stop the car in time. With the no front wing, gets a 5-second time penalty for track limits. Cos Silvi now receives a 3-second time penalty for track limits, but he's going to cross the line and win in. What words? Wins the sprint race with a 15-0 for the fastest lap, with Soybean just 8 tenths behind. DRS is enabled. We don't care about that. Adrian with a astonishing P3 for the sprint race. MZ Zolt for P4. Mix for P5. Boosty for P6. Of course, having to serve that 5-second time penalty for track limits. And no front wing. And Mr. Goat still manages to come home with at least 2 points in hand for Ferrari. I'm so confused as to what happened there. I am honestly so confused. I think I can already see apologies in the chat, in the paddock for from some of the drivers. But I mean, this is racing. Accidents and mistakes will happen. We are all humans. Mistakes can happen. Mistakes will happen. Not might, they will. But that was an interesting sprint race, to say the least. I'm still a little speechless for what's happened there. But there you have it, folks. That is the race results. Yeah, no, I'm still a little speechless. But it's fine. You know, it happens. We're not... You know what, Jim? You have a point there. Some are aliens. I think the aliens in this lobby would have to be considered to be the likes of Ryan Gosling, Cos Silvi, Rico, Soybean, Boosty. All of these guys are aliens. Let's be honest here. I don't know how they do it. I understand and I appreciate to some extent having Fanatec gear or Moza or whatever company floats your boat for your wheelhouse. Those setups only take you so far, but you have to have proper skill and proper talent. And, well, they've got more than that. But we are on for the full race, and you can see the weather already. It is a beautiful, soggy circuit. We have seen a lot happen at the circuit in the rain. I think the most notable incident that I think everyone can recall in the 2020 season is going to be George Russell and Valtteri Bottas down the main straight, tried to go for a move on one another, and unfortunately they collided. Now, hopefully these drivers are, I'm not going to say more aware. F1 drivers are incredibly talented. They're like, we think that Rico and Soybean are aliens, but no, these guys are another level of alien. But I know that we're going to have some close battles. I know the start is going to be very slow. Drivers are going to be very quick to want to get off the line, but they're not going to have the traction. They're not going to have the pace to get off the line. Sweat is definitely incoming, but in the famous words of George Russell, I say in the famous words, this time it won't just be sweat, it'll actually be rain as well. He's not going to imagine rain. Let's quit the rambling and let's get these drivers going. If they have not readied up just yet, let's have a look at the time very quickly. And I think, oh, never mind, I don't need to message anyone. They've cut my rambling in half. 5 red lights. Aston Martin at the front, along with Soybean for Red Bull, and there it is, the very slow start, very soggy circuit. Welcome, Rico, to the chat. You've come at the right moment as my game is struggling with the spray of the water, and into the first corner, into the chicane. Cos Silvi remains in the lead. There's a brake marker all the way up in the air. Soybeans remains in P2, Zolt's up into P3, Adrian down to P4, Mr. Go up into P5, sorry, Adrian up into P5. Everything is happening, and we're going to see some cars bumping. JPJ there, I think, had a bit of a tussle with someone. Someone's gone off the track there. I think that's going to be Boosty. Boosty's gone off the track and into the gravel. He's back on. No, he isn't. He's still off of the track, and unfortunately, he's going to be trying to catch up to the pack. But a virtual safety car. We've only just finished the first sector, and already we have ourselves a virtual safety car. Cos Silvi remains in the lead. Mr. Go up 2 places, along with JPJ, Ryan Gosling, and Wobby McQueen. And Julian up 1 place. Boosty is down by 6, and unfortunately, I didn't quite to see. I'm hoping you saw that on stream, folks, but my game was struggling. The rain was horrendous to deal with. My PC was struggling to understand what was going on, and I was dropping frames left, right, and center. In fact, my OBS is telling me I'm dropping frames still. But it looks like it's calmed down now, and we're going to have the virtual safety car coming to a close very soon as Boosty now gets a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. I think that was him trying to go through the chicane, and he's lost the car. He does have front wing damage, major front wing damage. Rico as well with front wing damage. But to no surprise at all, every driver on the grid is going to have themselves the intermediate tyre. But here's the interesting bit. The current forecast for rain is only at 61% rain. And it is only due to get lighter. Or at least that is the prediction, that is the hope. With a dynamic slot in the middle. So we've got light rain, then dynamic, then clear. As we go green now, anything could happen, and it is rapidly dropping. We're at 59% overcast and rain as Cos Silvi continues to lead the race. Mr. Goat gets through. There it is. My game is struggling, still dropping frames. Mr. Goat goes through, or battles through, and maintains P5 mix, or skill issue, is trying to keep up with P6. He's just stuck in a train in the wet. It is very hard as Boosty's going to retire from the session. Into the pits he goes. In the wet, it is very difficult to try and go for overtakes. It is very difficult to capitalize on any advantage you might have, because of course everyone is going to be struggling for traction. Everyone's going to be struggling to try and get those perfect exits, and it looks like Zolt has a bit of a slow exit, slower than Mr. Go anticipated. A bit of rear bumping between the AlphaTauri and the Ferrari there. Jim, I actually find it easy to race in the wet. We're going to see a move down the inside. Mr. Go into the final couple corners. He's going to try and go for a move on the AlphaTauri side by side. And into the final corner, there is contact. I have no clue what just happened. Full course safety car. I'm gonna clip that and have a look back through after the race, but contact between Mr. Goat and the AlphaTauri then turned into a domino effect of 3 other drivers getting tangled and involved in the incident, and all 3 of them, it looks like they were trying to go 3 into 1 into the pits, but 3 into 1 never goes, and yeah. Lap 3 of 32, and we have 4 drivers retired from the session. Boosty has retired early on in the session, retiring in the pits. Mix, Zolt, and Julian have all retired from an incident, and Soybean has received a drive-through for speeding. I do apologize. I am still so confused as to what has happened there. But well, we move on. Lap 1 for DNF. Yes, impressed is the wrong word. Astonished. Let's go with astonished. I'm astonished. But I think what I was explaining earlier is exactly true. It was a domino effect. It was a good move by Mr. Goat, sticking it too wide with the AlphaTauri, but then suddenly out of nowhere, come out the final corner. We've got a 3-wide battle, and it was just a domino effect, one after the other, a ripple effect of a spin, and another spin. And unfortunately, that resulted in the retirement of the Mercedes team principal, the AlphaTauri team principal, and the Aston Martin driver. Safety car is still out. Drivers are going to bunch up. Rico has boxed. Second time he's boxed, but of course you've got to think up to 3 intermediate tyres available. So Rico's got plenty. I mean, he will have. Soybean got a drive-through for existing. Very unfortunate, Soybean. He will have plenty of intermediates. Every driver will have I think it's 3 or 4 intermediates available to them. But yeah. I'm going to take this moment under the safety car to take a drink of water before we get racing. Again, 8 drivers on the grid. Still plenty of constructors to still be decided. I'll be back with you in just a moment. And here we go. We are going to get racing once again. Safety car is in this lap. Cos Silvi leads the pack. Soybean, as he's put in the chat, has got a drive-through for existing. Unfortunately, the game, pardon me, deemed him as speeding. But here we go. Cos Silvi, let's get this telemetry up. And I think he's already gone before the final corner. He's gone earlier than Soybean did in the sprint race. So this is exciting now. So we crossed the line. 6 laps out of 32. And Cos Silvi leads the pack. He's got a 1.5 second gap to the driver behind. And I'm saying 1.5 because Soybean has to serve that drive-through. And especially under these conditions, best to serve it as soon as possible. So let's have a look then. Soybean pulling to the right-hand side, or to the left-hand side as he comes out of the hairpin. And the forecast says 15% for rain. You can already see that the raindrops is very clearly, very evidently stopped. Is this open to all? This is not open to all. This is our most competitive tier, but unfortunately we've found ourselves in a bit of a quite an incident for the first 3 laps of the race with 3 drivers retiring. But no, this is not an open race. This is our top tier, highest tier available. But you are welcome to join, Pigeon. We have loads of tiers available. We've got, this season, we've got tiers 1 to 4. I think at most we've had tiers 1 to 6. It's purely based on the numbers of drivers want to join. And you are always more than welcome to join. The Discord is available just below in the About section. Unfortunately, I've not quite set up our Twitch yet to have an exclamation mark Discord for grabbing the invite. But Mr. Goat gets through ahead of Adrian. I just missed out on a beautiful battle there into the first corner. The Alpine's going to go too wide with the Williams, and the Williams has to go off the circuit. And here comes Ryan Gosling down the inside, trying to push his way through. He does manage to get ahead, but oh, very close contact there. Alpine gets through for P3, Rico up to P4. My game is struggling to keep up with the rain. Rico in P4, Ryan Gosling up to P5. He does manage to push his way through. Wobbin McQueen gets through as well, but Adrian down to P7 now. Adrian's still looking very much on pace. He maybe 1.2 seconds, 1.3 seconds off pace to Wobbin McQueen ahead of him. But mind you, take his pace with a grain of salt. It is the rain. Anything can happen, even the best drivers. We've seen in real life the likes of Max Verstappen spin at Suzuka in the rain. Anything can happen in the rain. So it is very much possible to be the best driver and still be off the pace. Cos Silvi with a whopping 5-second gap in the lead. And my game is still struggling, as hopefully I'll just have to swap off of these drivers as soon as we get into the drop frame sections. Lap 8 of 32 as the fastest lap goes to Cos Silvi. It's a 1:23.315. Cos Silvi with a whopping 5.4 second gap to Mr. Goat behind, who has got a massive train. We're going to sit with Rico, actually, just behind this train, as we're going to see... Oh, for a second there, I thought Mr. Goat's going to try and let Rico through, give him a bit of a tow, but no, here comes Mr... No, I'm getting all of my names wrong. I do apologize, folks, but here comes Rico trying to go for a fight with JPJ. Tried to go too wide just before the chicane. Now we're going to go into the hairpin. Can he stick it around the outside? I can't quite see anything from that camera angle. DRS is enabled, so that is it now, folks. The intermediates are no longer the optimum tire. We're definitely into the dry conditions. Rico's closing that gap down almost so close. It looks like for a second he was going to try and go for a move. Thankfully not. Intermediates are still definitely the optimum tire at the moment. You can see how wet that circuit is. There is no dry line, or at least visually, the game doesn't show any dry line just yet. Now coming into the chicane, Rico is improving still on his lap, of course, with the track drying up. A train still running all the way down to Wobbin McQueen. And crucially, something I did not expect to see under rain conditions. No, never mind. It's okay. DRS is enabled. The track's dry, yet everyone's still got blinking rear lights. DRS enabled, and Rico is gonna double stack. Ferrari on double stack, and Mr. Goat gets a 5-second time penalty for track limit. And here comes Wobbin McQueen. He crosses the line, and now Wobbin McQueen is on for the lead of the race. on the intermediates. Adrian for P2, Cos Sylvie is now coming out of this box on the hard tyres. Mr. Goat out on the mediums, of course, with a 5-second time penalty to serve at the end of the race or his next pit stop. JPJ on the hards, Ryan Gosling, Rico and Soybean all on the medium. So Adrian and Wobby are going to lose so much time. Wobby currently with an 18-second gap behind him. He does manage to set a purple first sector, which could indicate he's on a flyer, but the track is dry and his tyres are warming. Why do I still have telemetry open? Unfortunately, I can't see the tyre temperatures, not with the software that I use, but his intermediates are at 19 degrees. They are dropping in, or they're increasing in tyre usage, tyre degradation so quickly because it's a dry track. These tyres are overheating like there is no tomorrow. But of course, I cannot spit out the right words. Wobby McQueen puts the priority to his faster driver, Ryan Gosling, currently sitting in P6. That is a provisional P4 once the top two serve their mandatory stop. There's no chance in hell they're going to stay out on the intermediates, as Wobby just barely manages to stop the car in time. And Adrian with a very, very smooth pit stop entrance keeps it stable, and there we go. Yulian in the chat, good luck to Cos after a very unfortunate incident involving his retirement in P9 with MC Zoltan's mix skill issue. But Cos Sylvie now through for lead of the race, and now it's a perfect 50-50 split for tyre choice. Actually, we have a nice pattern of hard to medium, hard to medium, hard to medium, hard to medium. Beautiful little pattern we've got there of driver choice, or tyre choice, sorry. Will it be the hards to go 22 laps in this race, or the medium's going to go 22 laps in this race? I think realistically, it's going to be a 2-stop for those on the mediums, assuming that we are going to have another safety car. We will have to see what happens. Let's just have a quick look. I did ask for a good friend to send me a bit of information about this circuit. Some information that I think is going to be crucial to help us work out, right, what strategy are these drivers going to go for. We're going to stay on board here with Ryan Gosling as he's found himself in a bit of a train with JPJ and Mr. Goat. But we have a quick look at the tyres. We're going to see that the softs have a wear of nearly 5% per lap. The mediums with 3.6 and the hards with 3.1. The hards can realistically last up to 20 to 24 laps. That's right until you hit the cliff and the puncture zone, for which your tyre's just going to be gone. As Rico puts in the fastest lap of the session on 117.5. We're going to see too wide between the Alpine and the Ferrari, as the Alpine remains ahead. JPJ in P2, Mr. Goat in P3. Ryan Gosling really all over the gearbox of the Ferrari. He's not leaving an inch of space. Does look like he's got front wing damage, but he doesn't. The McLaren front wing just have those weird white bits. Oh, that's the sponsors. The sponsor on the front wing really makes it look like they've got a damaged front wing. But the mediums, as I was going through the tyres, the mediums can last and go through to the end of the race. As their cliff point is 17 laps, their puncture zone is around 21 laps, and the softs, and I have a feeling we might just see some softs towards the end of this race, are going to be around 13 to 15 laps in this race. And some of the drivers do still have softs available. I know that Rico used up a pair of his softs under the safety car in the sprint race, along with, I believe, Mr. Goat and Wobby McQueen, potentially. Don't quote me on that. I genuinely don't actually remember. I'm not going to tab out to find out either, because there's too much action going on. There is a three-way fight right now for the P2, and Mr. Goat still has a 5-second time penalty to serve, either at the end of this race or under his next pit stop. And for him to be on the medium tyres, I think it is potentially going to work out not in his favour, as he does go for a very comfortable move. DRS enabled. Ryan Gosling and Mr. Goat through for now P2 and P3. But Mr. Goat, I don't think, is going to be able to try... If he's got any hopes of trying to remove the 5-second time penalty, because of course we do permit penalties to be removed if they have not been served in the pits. I do not think there's going to be any chance, a very slim chance. The only way those mediums are making it is if he gets a very, very late safety car. But to no surprise, the mediums are turning out to be the far more powerful, far more advantageous tyre choice. I promise I can speak English, folks. Honestly, I promise I can. But, of course, for the first few laps, the opening laps, I reckon it's going to be around the first 7 laps are going to be the optimal time for those mediums before the hards really come to the picture, really find a pace and find that they have got the duration, the durability to get through that length. Look at that gap. Cos Silvi is like the Max Verstappen of this group for today's race. It is a whopping 7.2 second gap. It is now the quiet moment in this race as drivers are looking to try and push as much as they can but conserve their tyres as much as they can. Of course, the last thing you want to do is to absolutely wear out those tyres. You need to, if you are going to choose to take those mediums to the end of the race, you need to absolutely save them as much as you can. Not push the limits. Because you push the limits a little too far, and that'll be your race over, and that's the last thing we want here. As Mr. Goat continues to defend really well. He's going to have to defend as best as he can with Ryan Gosling with that DRS behind. And he's going to close that gap down, but unfortunately he's not going to be able to close it down quick enough. 2.5 tenths, 1.5 tenths, nearly 1 tenth into the first couple corners there. Technically the second and third corner if you count that first right-hand kink on the straight. As we get the glitchy helicopter cam to see just how close this train is. In fact, this is the closest battle on the track as Rico is trying to close in and join at this battle. 1.4 seconds behind. He is low on ERS. He is pushing as much as he can. Into the chicane, and Ryan Gosling with a very peculiar line through the chicane. He gets a really good exit. He's going to go side by side with Mr. Go. Is he going to try and go for a move down the inside? He's not quite close enough, but he's going to have to just slot in behind, and I think there was a bit of a lock-up there for the McLaren driver. 2.5, 3.5 tenths behind. He does have a poor exit. He's going to be under pressure now from JPJ behind. We're going to jump on board JPJ. Listen to the loud engine of the Alpine. They're going to close the gap down. Mr. Go is under pressure. He goes to the inside line. McLaren to the outside. JPJ, could he try and go for the move? Down the inside. He's going to try to light contact with the Ferrari there. Thankfully, no spin there, but McLaren goes through for P2. Mr. Goat for P3, and JPJ stays out in P4. That was incredibly close. But some great racing from all three of those drivers so far. Ryan Gosling on for a provisional podium as we now approach the halfway mark, the end of this lap. This is going to be the only battle to keep an eye on as we see the Alpine find himself in a bit of a Ferrari sandwich. Mr. Goat and Rico surround the Alpine driver. Rico absolutely on the hunt. He's managed to close in that gap, and he's also trying to recharge his ERS now and use that DRS to pull alongside and battle with the Alpine. And now the DRS train continues on. The only DRS straight on this circuit. Mr. Goat's going to go for a move down the inside. Carbon copy of McLaren did to him just a lap ago. And Mr. Rico is also going to try and go for a move. Unfortunately, not quite close enough. But Goat goes back through for P2. Builds the gap for Cos Silvi. If this keeps on going, say to round 25, it could potentially be a free pit stop for Cos Silvi onto the soft compound tyres and finish the race on the softs. train continues on. Unfortunately, this is all going to be... I have a funny feeling this is going to be the entire race for the next 16 laps. Battle between Ferrari, Alpine, Ferrari and McLaren, all for P2 in this race. I'm going to stay with the Ferrari man as he comes around the final couple of corners. You can see his teammate just ahead of him. You can see two competitors just ahead of him. A proper sandwich between the Ferraris. One is the bus, the other one is the train. The bullet train is more the analogy I was trying to go for. But does he have the speed? He does not. Still 4 tenths back. And this race is going to continue on. Not even any point at looking at Carl Silvi, the Max Verstappen of this race. Absolutely flying ahead. But perhaps he could be the Fernando Alonso for the Aston Martins. Because he has come up with a strategy that has worked beautifully in his favour. Hopefully, once the drivers cross the start-finish line, the timings will update. There we go. 10 seconds now. Jesus. Cos Silvi. The first time I saw Cos Silvi race with us, was he going to see a move? Hold on a minute. A move from the McLaren. He goes through for P2. JPJ is going to try and fight it out too wide with Rico there for P4. And again, Rico unfortunately does not quite have the edge. Doesn't quite have the pace to get ahead of JPJ there. And has to just slot in behind the Alpine. But as I was saying before, the first time I saw Cos Silvi, the first time he joined us as Phoenix Simsport, he joined to want to race, and he preferred the Ferrari engine over the Alfa Romeo engine. So I managed to snipe and steal Cos Silvi, signed him to Ferrari during one of my seasons as team principal, and in one of his opening races, it was Monaco. A dreaded circuit for so many drivers, but a delightful circuit for so many others who are so precise with their turn-ins and just the thrill and the fun of this circuit. They know that they can push the limits in Monaco and know that they can get through it with ease. As JPJ really looks close. Oh, for a second there, I thought he just touched the grass there and lost control of his car. And he keeps on going. But as I was saying, Cos Silvi, absolutely commanding charge here. Commanding charge at Monaco. Reminds me of the good old days when I was Ferrari TP. Even if I was Ferrari TP now, I'd be proud of these two. Mr. Goat P3 currently closing the gap in, and he's going to go through for a move again down the inside on the McLaren. He's going to take another move for P2, and this is going to be a good song and dance between the pair of them up until the end of the race, up until these tyres really do start to drop off a cliff. As we look at the tyre temperatures, or the tyre degradation level, we are looking at around 30% for all medium drivers on the grid, so they are slowly starting to push the limits of what the tyres can really do. And look at how close Ryan Gosling is. He's almost pushing the Ferrari along. It is a 1/10 gap all the way through the first half of that second sector. Now for the second sector, the end of the second sector, into the chicane. Look at how close they are, all within just 3-4 tenths of each other. There is a bit of contact there between the Ferrari and the McLaren. That gives him a poor exit. Here comes the Alpine now. Can the Alpine side by side have the pace, have the speed to be able to go for a move? And unfortunately he's not. But if he keeps up this momentum, as McLaren has a massive snap there, he loses the rear end. Now DR is going to be open. Could this be the opportunity that Alpine, that JPJ really needs to go for the move? He's going to try and go for it. He's going to go to the outside. Is he going to switch to the inside? No, he's going to stay to the outside. McLaren goes through for P2. JPJ almost pushing the limits. Tried to go for P3. Wasn't quite close enough. But the move, the potential was there. Rico now, the second Ferrari penalty, and this time it is Rico for track limits. Lily is in P1. Lily, I mean, if you're on P1 and you're Cos Sylvie at the same time, or P0, sorry, impressive driving for you to be in P0. How was your ACC race though? Curious to know how that went. And now, Ryan Gosling, he's broken that 1 second. Mr. Goat is left to defend by himself as the fight goes on. And here comes JPJ. 7.5 tenths back, 8 tenths back. He is quite away from the Ferrari, but he's got another Ferrari behind, so the DRS is going to help him nonetheless. As Mr. Goat has got to try and keep it up. This is going to be all eyes to the end of the race. Mr. Goat has got to try and close that gap down. 11 laps left to go, sorry. And these drivers are still on the mediums. Let's have a look at the tire age. 12 laps across the board, pretty much. 11 laps for Wobby and Adrian. Those who are 11 laps old are looking at 25% hards, whilst the rest of the grid are... Well, I say rest of the grid. JPJ and Cos Sylvie, 30% on their hards. Whilst Ryan, Goat, Rico, and Soybean are all hovering around 35%. So they've already hit phase 1 of losing grip. There are 3 phases to the drop-off of a tyre, as far as I'm aware. And hopefully, if any of the Tier 1 drivers, I know that Rico and Soybean do actively like to watch back the VOD and look at the battles that I catch on the stream, or if anyone else catches on the stream. But I'd love to know if I'm wrong with this. As far as I am aware, there are 3 phases at which... Oh, McLaren trying to do a dummy into the pits, and Rico is actually going to go into the pits. There we go. Exactly as I thought. I think he's going to go for the soft compound tyre. That is the softs. To the end of the race, Rico will go. 3 phases for the tyres. Phase 1, 30% tyre wear. You will lose a significant amount of grip. You're still able to race on them, but you'll start to really lose it. Phase 2 is 50 to 60%. Phase 2 is where you absolutely lose the grip. The tyre temps are through the roof. You cannot get the traction that you want. Phase 3 is 75% onwards, where you're inside that puncture territory. Once you hit 75%, it is just a rapid, it's an exponential growth from 0% to 100% for a puncture. And I say 100% as you do see Mr. Goat going through the downhill section, his car just going to the limit, and unfortunately that's going to be a 3-second time penalty tacked on, top of his 5-second speeding into a pit lane penalty that is still yet to be served before the end of this race. Let's go, Ryan, let's go. I did the clap, don't you worry, Kiri. Kiri Anika, Tier 4 driver for McLaren here to support their Tier 1 driver. Ryan Gosling currently sitting in P2 with a 12.5 second gap to Cos Sylvie. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, it is a 3-phase tyre cliff. And Mr. Goat is going to come into the box now. He's going to serve 5 seconds in the pits. We're going to see the drivers, the engineers, wait for 5 seconds. As we hear Wobby McQueen goes through for P6. Now the tyre is going to be changed onto the soft compound tyre. And now Mr. Goat only has a 3-second time penalty to serve at the end of this race. And that was Adrian just going from right to left in our ears. Cross the line. And there goes Rico, teammate to Mr. Goat. So now the 2 Ferraris have opted to pit for the soft compound tyre. 9 laps left to go. So they were initially, let's have a look at this, folks. Mr. Goat was fighting for P2, sitting in P3, and Rico was fighting for P3, sitting in P4. They have opted to give up time and track position, huge points in the Constructors' Championship fight for Ferrari, to go for the soft compound tyre for the final 9 laps. JPJ now receives a 3-second time penalty for track limits, but the battle is on, for Rico and Goat are absolutely on the hunt now. Rico, certainly. Rico, 3 seconds behind Adrian. Adrian with a 3-second time penalty for track limits. JPJ with 3 seconds. He is obviously going to put in the fastest laps that we have ever seen as JPJ goes through and ahead of Ryan, as Ryan is also going to box onto the softs. I think all of the medium compound runners are going to pit for the softs, except for Soybean. potentially. Rico, 1:15.952, fastest lap for Ferrari. That is an extra point in hand. P6 for Rico. He is 2 places off of where he once was before he decided to box. Now, if Soybean boxes, that's a free position for Rico. Rico will then take P5, and he only needs to fight for 1 position. Rico is now 0.5 seconds behind Adrian. He has a massive tyre advantage. The hards versus the mediums. On fresh tyres, the softs, I've got a massive advantage. But now, with 14-lap-old hards versus fresh softs, the advantage goes to the Ferrari and around the outside. A beautiful move. Wow, Rico, absolute daredevil, sticks it around the outside. He's got the grip, he's got the pace, and he gets the job done. P5 for the Ferrari man. Into the chicane he goes. He is a 8.5 second gap now to close to Wobbie McQueen ahead of him on the hard compound tyres. This is starting to really ramp up. This is starting to really get exciting as Adrian has now dropped outside of that 1 second. He couldn't quite keep it up, but I think he might have DRS. He does. He does manage to get through the DRS detection zone, and he keeps that DRS for a lap. Ryan Gosling on the hunt, 2.2 seconds behind. He's on the fresh softs as well. He does get the jump on Mr. Goat, but Ryan has... This is the big one, though. Ryan has opted to lose out on a potential podium position, a P2 on track, to box for fresh softs and go for the hunt. And he has got quite the hunt ahead of him. 7 laps left to go, 6.5 laps left to go for where they stand now, as Cos Silvy's going to come around the final couple corners, and he's going to start the 26th lap, 13 seconds ahead of everyone else. I am a bit speechless. This is a strategy I did not think many drivers, let alone just a strategy I didn't think anyone would try and do. Ryan, least of all, sitting in a comfortable P2, and now coming out the chicane, it is no sweat off his chest. It is a simple and easy move for the McLaren man. He goes through for P6 now, 2 positions behind his team principal and his teammate, as Rico now closes in with 5 seconds to go. Now it is a game of patience. It's a game of, for some drivers, just hoping, really praying that these tyres stay on their... Why is the helicopter cam so glitchy? I don't understand. It's only this circuit. But these drivers are now praying that these tyres stick on their tyres, as Soybean, the championship winner, receives a 3-second time penalty for track limits. And now it is just time will tell. Soybean. He is approaching that second phase. Soybean with 18 lap mediums. Now the mediums, remember I said that the mediums would only last up to 19 laps. 19 laps on the mediums, and he has opted to go for 24 or 23 laps. Let's have another look. Ideal mediums, 8 to 19 laps. Softs are 7 laps or less, and the hards are 20 laps or more is what they can do. And Soybean is pushing the limit. Not only is he pushing the limit of what his car can handle, but the limit that his tires can handle. Warning signs are on his HUD. MFDs, the multi-function display which all drivers have access to be able to change their brake bias, their differential, choose their pit stop strategies and all, will come up with an orange indicator now for the Red Bull driver. as he crosses the line for lap 28 of 32. And he is still going. He's not going to box now. He has a lot more to lose to box for softs than he does to keep on pushing. Rico, P5, 1.4 seconds behind. He's still got a 3-second time penalty to serve at the end of the race. Is a proper heart-in-mouth moment. I am scared for these drivers ahead. I'm worried for the drivers ahead. I would love to see Soybean finish this race, but he's currently rapidly approaching, and I have a funny feeling we're going to come to the end of the race, and he's going to be inside that puncture territory on his medium tires. And here comes Wobbin McQueen and Rico now, who are fighting it out on track for P4, and unfortunately it's only going to be a track victory for Rico. For the 3-second time penalty, he's going to be served at the end of the race. And Wobbin McQueen's going to retain that P4 finish. 13-second gap between Wobby and Soybean. There's nothing to gain ahead. It's a matter of on-track victory, on-track bragging rights. I finished ahead of Wobbin McQueen. I mean, who wouldn't want to have those bragging rights? And I'm sure all of the drivers on the grid have had those bragging rights in the past and now. Wobbin McQueen puts up very little defense. DRS enabled for Rico. And it is a comfortable pass round the outside and ahead now for P4. And of course now the fight is still on. 2.5 seconds is the gap for Rico and for Wobbin McQueen. 2.5 seconds Rico has to build in order to keep that position. Mixed DNF back to usual. Vers, it's not the usual. I can assure you more than anyone, this was not your usual DNF. This was a 4-car collision, and it resulted in 3 retirees. It is a retirement for Mix, but unfortunately it is not the usual shenanigans of a Mix skill issue. It was a 4-car crash on lap 3. On lap 3, it was a 4-car collision. And right now, the only battle... Oh, hold on a minute. The only battle I was going to say was only going to be between Rico and Wobbin McQueen. But Soybean, with absolutely blistering pace, has dead tyres and is still pushing on. He's got a 3-second time penalty to serve at the end of the race. And he's currently looking at a comfortable P3, but he's going to try and go for a move around the outside of the Alpine going through into the hairpin. He's going to stay behind the Alpine with 2 laps left to go. Could Soybean, in the last lap lunge, grab P2 from the Alpine driver who has fought tirelessly? He has gone through so much during the sprint race, so much during this main race, this feature race, as I would call it. Can he defend for P2? Or is he going to come out of it and take P3? And Soybean, the championship leader, the championship winner, the Constructors champions as well, Red Bull, as they cross the line, Red Bull will take that trophy, both trophies in hand. But can Soybean grab himself another 2nd place victory for none other than the season finale? Rico, though, still on the radar. 1.6 seconds is the gap. DRS enabled. Soybean around the outside before the braking zone. He's ahead and on for P2 with a 3-second time penalty to serve. It's not going to affect his position. Soybean, lap 31 of 32, takes P2. Rico and Wobbin McQueen. This is now where my eyes are going to be peeled, as Ryan Gosling is on the hunt. He's on the soft compound tyres. He's on the same compound of tyre as Rico. Oh my god, I've just looked at that. I've just noticed that. Rico with 4 pit stops, of course, with a safety car. But Ryan with 2 lap fresher softs. The hunt is on. Ryan Gosling is actually going to be the reason why Rico will not keep this P4, as JPJ receives another 3 seconds for time penalty for track limits. Why is it not letting me resub with Twitch Prime? Is your Twitch, have you, what it might be is your Twitch Prime hasn't actually finished yet. Rather, if it has and you've used it on us, it should be fine, as we see Ryan Gosling going very wide on the exit. Is it exactly what I thought it was, Verz? Just the fact that you've not given it enough time before it expires for you to reuse. Ah, okay. Fair enough. But Ryan Gosling still in the hunt. Soybean down back into P3, but he doesn't have to go for the move. He can just stay and slot in behind. He can just comfortably wait. His tyres are reaching phase 3 for the tyre drop-off. And Rico has achieved the 3 seconds that he so crucially needs. And for the final lap, it is all or nothing. Ryan Gosling has got 2 sectors left to go to close 1.5 tenths of a second of a gap. Sorry, 1.5 tenths, 1/10 now. If he does not close that gap, he is going to lose out on a P4 finish. Rico is looking stronger than ever for a P4 finish, as JPJ receives another 3-second time penalty for track limits, and Cos Silvi crosses the line. I didn't even notice Cos Silvi cross the line to win this Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, as Ryan Gosling now gets a 3-second time penalty for track limits. JPJ will cross the line for an on-track victory in P2, and he crashes into the wall in spectacular fashion. Soybean for P2 after penalties. Rico 12.5 seconds behind JPJ with an incredible race, goes from P4, pits and comes back to P4 with a 3-second time penalty, still scores great points. McLaren with a 5 and a 6 finish, half a second behind Rico. Mr. Goat with a very unfortunate race. A lot has happened for his race today, but he finishes off the season with a P7, and Adrian, in superb fashion, finishes with 3 points in hand. An incredible race for the Williams driver. JPJ with the driver of the day, but I'm a little bit here and there. I think I might have to vote for Silvi. The one and only Silvi takes the top step of the podium, takes a victory I did not think was going to go Aston Martin's way. I genuinely thought that was it. Red Bull are going to take another race victory for season 9, but no. Aston Martin pulled out every stop they had in the book and showed that they had true pace, and they came out on top. An incredible race for so many drivers, and an incredible heartbreak for so many more as well. You can see there Boosty retiring at the start of the race. Then we got Mix, MZ, Zolt, Julian, and Julian, all retiring from the feature race. And in the sprint race, thankfully I say no retirees. I think in the sprint race we had 4 retirees or 5 retirees, as per you can see everyone having negative on their time delta because they were lapped and retired. So that's not going to be a point towards Julian, unfortunately, as he did retire, I believe. But for a season finale that had a lot more drama and a lot more excitement, a lot more heartbreak and a lot more fear than I ever anticipated any season finale to be. So, I'm impressed. I'm heartbroken to see so many drivers, unfortunately, unable to finish out the race, finish out the season finale. But this is racing. It happens. Mistakes will happen. But we have now the exciting bit for some interviews. We are going to have 2 definitive interviews. We are going to have a conversation with the championship leader and the championship winner. We're going to have a chat with Soybean. We're also going to have a chat with a special surprise. Let's have a quick look and have a look at Discord to see who is going to be waiting in the commentary box for me to have a conversation. Hopefully we can have Soybean join. I'd love to have a conversation with him first, if he can. Mr. Champ Bean interview. Let's find out if he'd like to join. But that was... Love to know your thoughts, but that was... Yeah, I think interesting is the best word I can think of to describe that. interesting is the only word I can use to describe that race. But let's get out of this session. Let's get to that little showroom, show off the beautiful cars. We're going to have a wonderful conversation with the one and only Soybean. Red Bull. Toggle that, and let's have a wee chat. First of all, congratulations, champion, and welcome to the commentary box. First of all, I just want to know, what were your thoughts that race? What did you think of that race?
Well, being a massive battle basically, although it wasn't my fault. So, I mean, for the whatever time this season, I've been screwed over by someone or the game, as you could see. Because, I mean, in the sprint, obviously, it was my fault. I was pretty clear. Even though I was on the old tyres, I probably would have kept cars behind and won the sprint. But, you know, the tyres are already cold after a restart for some reason, and they just didn't feel good anymore. So, yeah, but I still got P2, so it wasn't that bad. And then the race, the pace in the wet wasn't amazing, but I was just messing up a bit at the start. But in the dry, it was absolutely brilliant somehow. And the game gave me a drive-through penalty under the safety car for no reason. It was completely green on the delta and everything. Didn't overtake anyone, but still drive through. So yeah, after serving that, 28-second pit stop loss, and then finishing or getting within 15 seconds of Cos, and then fighting JPJ and getting the penalty and whatnot. It's not bad gaining that 13 seconds on Cos, who was seemingly way faster than everyone else. So yeah, pretty decent pace, but obviously pretty boring race because I didn't get to race anyone or anything like that. But I was just having to push the whole time pretty much. So yeah, and I don't like this track anyway. So yeah.
I mean, for someone who doesn't like this track, you did pretty damn well on it to be able to still finish out at P2. I thought you were going to have a puncture towards the end of that race. I won't lie. I saw the strategy you were going for. I saw the risks that were involved with that. I didn't have the confidence that your tyres would make it, but you showed otherwise. But I mean, this race is a perfect example of you this entire season. No matter the circumstances, no matter the weather, you would always put the foot in the right place. You'd always get the strategy right for the most part. And you came out with a commanding lead in the championship. In fact, you won it about 3 rounds ago. And unfortunately, my mistake, I didn't have the interview with you first. Instead, I spoke to the race winners. But you won it so early on. You still kept on that strength. And you went through to get a P2. How was the season overall for you? How was the competition overall throughout the season?
Well, obviously same drivers pretty much from last season. So aside from the first 2 races where Rico wasn't here, it was pretty much the same. But even though Rico wasn't really there as much fighting me, it's still fairly competitive. It's just that even when people are fast, they'd usually end up making mistakes. So yeah, but I think personally I was way better last season, because this season, I mean, even though a lot of it wasn't my fault, I feel like I should have done better than I did, even with the disadvantages and stuff. But I mean, only winning 3 races at the beginning and then none of the rest of them. Obviously, some like Belgium were my fault, and I can't really remember the rest, but definitely that one, and just a few places I could have got more points and stuff like that. But yeah, generally, I feel like this season went a bit worse, and obviously with no one to fight with, a little bit dead, you know, as in there's no one to really like try and beat or try and win for, even though obviously I try and win every race, but still. And in qualifying, I've just been terrible this season pretty much. I didn't get a single lap the whole season that I was actually happy with, even though I got pole a couple of times. That just because other people didn't do as well or stuff like that. But yeah, so I mean, I would have liked to have done better, but yeah, I mean, there was no one to fight really. So
I mean, you still get to walk away with the drivers' championship. in hand, and the constructors. So I know you, the team, Myths, trying to think who your tier 2 drivers are, Test, Will, and Hugh. All of them are all champions this weekend. I think Hugh won the drivers as well, didn't he, this weekend? So it's a Red Bull spectacular season.
I mean, we did it last season and we did it again. So yeah,
it's
not
almost
too
like
bad.
You're copying Red Bull in real life with the pace that you've got.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Max, like, even if he doesn't win, he's always at the top. And even when he gets screwed over, he's still getting points and getting wins. So, I mean, that's pretty much what we had to do. We didn't win the Constructor, I don't think, in Tier 2. But, yeah, we definitely did better in Tier 3 as well. So, yeah, I mean, I got the majority of the points because my teammate was quite unlucky this season. And he couldn't show up every time. So, yeah, we'll see what happens next season. And with the whole new game and whatnot, hopefully it's good, and hopefully the calendar's good. Wink, wink. Because, like, honestly, like, come on, man. But
give us
anyway.
suggestions. Honestly, we've got the Formula form there, the feedback form. I'll make a post about it again this evening. Would love to hear your suggestions on what you'd love to see on the calendar. I know there's always a popular demand for Monaco, but then we always see a massive cliff drop in the attendees for that race.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky scenario choosing the calendar, and hopefully we can do better with driver inputs. But anyways, congratulations again. A very, very well done to secure a P2, especially after that drive through for, as you put it, existing under safety car. You showed that you've got what it takes to be a champion, not just once but twice. So I'm looking forward to seeing you hopefully continue on with Red Bull and become the 3-time world champion.
Yeah, we'll see. Thank you very much.
No worries. Now let's have a quick chat. We're going to have a quick chat with Cos Silva. We're going to have a chat with our race winner, Mr. Cos Silva. We're going to have a conversation with you first, my friend. For you did win the race. You didn't just win the race. You commanded everyone. You did not, for one moment, give them a sniff of P1. What was that race? You were on fire.
Honestly, I have no clue. I was watching the Indy 500 on my other monitor.
Okay, don't need to rub it into everyone else that they're that slow. You can multitask whilst you're racing.
No, I was in a chat with a couple friends, and they were just watching. We were all watching the qualifying for the Indy 500. I have no clue how I managed that. Like this I don't know how. First of all, qualifying, it was like horrible. Like I think it was horrible for everyone.
Yeah.
Like a good qualifying time here is like a 13, like mid low maybe. And we were all doing like 14. I think I did like 14-1. Like I made so many mistakes. And then when we moved to the sprint, at the start, I pulled away and I was just using all my battery because I felt I was willing to be quicker than Rico. And when the safety car came out, I just boxed for softs, and a couple people didn't. And then there was a couple kills ahead of me, a bit of death, chaos. I passed Emsalt, then Soybean decided that the wall was more grippier than the track, and that was not very smart of him. And then Boosty just knew he couldn't really do much, so he just let me go. And the sprint was rather cut and dry. And well, when we moved over to the main race at the start, I had no reason to be so quick in the rain, but I guess I guess my lunch was good today. Yeah, I mean, I have not much more to say.
Launch, you started the race with like a 3 or 4 second lead, but then everyone was fighting for P2. It was a continuous fight, I think, from lap 20 or lap 19 or 17 all the way to the end of the race. It was a continuous fight for P2, which helped you build a gap to 13 or 15 seconds to win the race. Like, I was mentioning on stream, I remember the first time you raced with us, it was Monaco, and you won with ease. But that was Monaco. that was precision, that was accuracy, that was pace. This was just a masterclass of everything you could ever think of. You had everything in hand. It was really well done. I mean,
Yeah.
you didn't have any screen time. I'll tell you that much now when you watch the replay, because you were in the lead for so long. But it was not lost that you were gone. It was not lost on me. I kept an eye on that time. I was waiting for Soybean to close that gap down, but he was too busy having a battle with his own, with the game, with EA, giving him a drive-through for an apparent green delta, which we all know how terrible this game can be. So it is entirely possible for that to happen. I wouldn't be surprised that that's what happened. But you know what? It was an incredible race. Massive congratulations to you. I am looking forward to see next season. I hope you are continuing to race next season. Are you not? Are you really not?
Yeah, well, that's the plan, I guess. I mean,
I hope so.
I hope. Yeah, I hope. I'll try. I mean, and unless I have some other very important commitment that doesn't allow me to, but for now, I should be able to arrive next season. And I think this season I just completely bottled it at the start. I mean, round one, I think it was just bad luck that I didn't win because I got taken out. But yeah, then after round one in Vegas, I killed Boosty, which was my fault. In Suzuka, I killed Rico, which, to be fair, I think I got a race penalty when it was in the sprint, which I know we're looking to change that next season, but yeah, that ruined me. Then Netherlands, I got taken out. In China, my wheel decided to die, and effectively those were like just 3 races that I just didn't score points at all. And yeah, I mean I scored in the sprint of Suzuka, but sprint, and I wasn't even I think it was 6th or 5th that they finished, so it wasn't anything great. And the end of the season, I knew I wasn't fighting for the championship, so I wasn't really particularly pushing too hard. I was just, enjoying it. And yeah, hopefully if next season things turn out a bit better for me, like they have for Soybean, who's honestly driven very well this season, and he's set the pace. But if things turn out a little better for me, hopefully I'll be actually fighting for a title if I'm not focusing on taking out Rico and yeah, if I'm not on taking out Rico or Boosty during races or getting taken out myself by tier 2 reserves. But yeah.
Well, we'll have to hope. Soybean definitely deserved the championship this season. There's no question about it. But the competition is ramping up very quickly. It's not just you, it's now Rico. Adrian, new to join Tier 1, he certainly has the knowledge to get there, and I think he's going to be competition very soon. Ryan Gosling has got the pace. We've got a lot of drivers who are slowly really starting to find the grip and find the pace, the limits at which they can push their car and their confidence in the car. So I think next season is going to... I'm hoping next season will be one of the best seasons to date for how close everyone will be. But congratulations again. I am going to cut this up short, because I still need to have a conversation with the McLaren drivers. They've asked for a special interview. But congratulations on that race victory. Very well deserved. I mean, no one stood a chance to go against you in this race. That once you had a lead, I think, of about 3-4 seconds, it was pretty much sealed in cement, sealed in stone for it to be yours. But I hope to see you race next season. Rather, I will see you race next season. You have no choice in the matter. You better sort out your schedule so that you race. I look forward to seeing what team signs you on. Of course, the contracts and the market will open for team principals, I believe, some point this week, with a 2-week break now. So hopefully you get some well-deserved rest before Season 10 starts.
Yeah, thank you, Darkness. And before I go, shout out to Ednabel, who was my TP this season. Amazing team principal, honestly, giving us all the help he could have. And yeah, sadly he's stepping away from the league, but yeah, I'm happy to have been driving for him this season, and yeah, I hope he does well, also managing other teams and in other competitions.
He does
Anyways, I'll head off.
He does
Darkness.
an impressive job to team principal. I think it's like 7 teams across so many different leagues.
Yeah.
So no, it's always a delight to have drivers or team principals who are as unique as him to control so much and handle so much. So yeah, no, I agree with you there. Massive thank you and a round of applause to him for keeping Aston Martin together after so much that's happened this season, and for a good couple seasons, 3 seasons I think he's been with us at STP. So it's always been fun to have him on. I'm sure we'll see him again. It's not a goodbye, it's a see you later. That's how I'm going to see it. But anyways, thank you again, Cos. I will look forward to seeing you and hopefully some off-season breaks, or at least for the start of Season 10. And now, one final interview before we wrap things up. Myths, the champion was, to no surprise, Soybean. And the constructors, again, to no surprise, was to Red Bull. But we're going to have one special interview. We're going to drag them up. I can see they're having a bit of a conversation. Ryan, I'm going to drag you up here along with your team principal. I'm going to kidnap both of you. First of all, congratulations to both of you for finishing the race. Of course, a lot happened. You saw the number of drivers who retired that race, and a lot happened. Yeah. But the first question I want to know is, Ryan, I'm very curious to know, why is it that you chose to give up not just any track position, but a potential P2 to go for the soft compound tyre at the end of the race there?
I did a mistake, and that was trusting Rico.
And what was the trust in Rico? What were you trying to go for?
Yeah, no. But I told him, like, I'm gonna stay on the mediums. He's like, no, they won't go to the end. I was like, then what's he doing? He's going to soft. I've been multiple times. What are you doing? He didn't tell me. So I trusted Rico and went for soft, and I hate my life for it. But it is what it is. I mean, it's still a fun race.
You still scored P6. Still great points for you and the team. With Webby just ahead of you on the hards for P5.
Give me it right at the end.
I mean, Webby, you said the one thing you really wanted to do this race was not to retire, and you did exactly that. You finished the race in P5. How was that for you?
Yeah, it was a good race. Yeah, a lot went on. I mean, these guys are much faster than me, but staying out of trouble, you get the positions and everything like that. I mean, I think I took him out accidentally in the sprint race because I got stuck on Zoltz and my car flicked left and then just flung to the right into Ryan.
I was wondering what happened there. I saw the fight between you and Zoltz, and then I just saw the retirement of 2 orange cars. I was very heartbroken.
Yeah, and we both messaged each other like, what? So, yeah, but no, it was a good race. I just went for the long strategy and just hoped that my tyres held on. Just couldn't hold on to the soft runners right at the end. I think maybe 3-4 more laps I'd just been faster than them. The softs die so fast here and the hards just stay on for so long. So, no, but it was a decent race.
And Ryan, what about you overall? Ignoring the fact that you had to go for a strategy call to the softs at the end, how was the race overall?
I mean, in the sprint it was fine. Well, not really, okay. At first, we both of us broke too hard and spun into turn 1 on the first lap.
Oh, yeah.
It's a massive skill issue from both of us. And then nothing really happened until I got smacked into the wall. I think it's my first on-track DNF this season, or maybe like my whole career here in Phoenix. Quite sad. I was gonna keep a record on not retiring. I don't know.
All good things have to come to an end, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sure, it would have been fun to finish on a podium. I mean, I did win 1 race this season. I don't think I did really much more than that. This is 1 win, that's it. Kind of fell off. But, you know, it's a fun race. I mean, that's the most important thing. Even though I might have done a Leclerc in the chicane. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I got a free sec of that. But, you know, it is what it is.
You did that on purpose, didn't you, for me?
No, actually not. I was just trying to push to keep with Rico, and then I just...
I was shouting that the team principal from McLaren has swapped positions with his driver, and this is the fight now. This is the fight now for P4. Could this risk Rico's perfect strategy call for the softs? But yeah, no, you lost it with the 3 seconds. I'm disappointed. How dare you? I thought you were better than this being a McLaren driver. Come on.
Well, I've scored one. I've scored lots of points for McLaren. Okay, I got in the first victory, I don't know, in Tier 1 in I don't know how long. I think I've done my my job so
Your
far
fair
at least.
share, yeah.
Ryan,
I
Ryan.
think it's Webby that's slacking. Webby needs to get his
Yeah, and GG Land. I mean, showed up one
Yeah.
way, so.
Turning up on one race and me having to do the rest. No, but Ryan's done brilliantly all season. Some ups and downs, but it's a competitive tier 1. I mean, there's like 3 different groups. There's literally like the ridiculously fast, the middle pack, and the back pack, and it's just like luck of the draw where you are sometimes. I mean, if you get stuck behind some of the slower drivers, I mean, it can be actually quite hard to overtake them. And sometimes you can stay with the quicker drivers, but Ryan's done a really good job to, I think, secure P5 in the constructors, especially with GG not being here for, I think he only turned up for 1 race, and having a very slow tier 2 driver to try and bring the points in for McLaren. But no, he's done really well all season. So thank you very much.
And Webby, you've got a special announcement you messaged me about. I can't remember what it was, but you wanted a moment in the spotlight for the interviews this evening.
Don't make me cry, mate. No, that was my final race for F1. So I'm retiring from F1 for maybe 2 seasons, 3 seasons, or even that's it. But trying to move on to new games, new sims, races, and everything like that. Trying to expand my craft and all that. I've done what I've wanted. Well, I've nearly done what I wanted in tier 1, in F1. But the game's just, it's not to my liking anymore. So I'm retiring, but happy to end it on a decent result, because my tier 2 was not decent because I got lapped by 3 drivers, which all went wrong in that one. So I'm glad this one went to plan a little bit. But yeah, that was my last one. I'm carrying on as team principal, but no more full-time driving. And I'm not going to reserve, because I was supposed to retire last season and it didn't go to plan.
I was going to ask, is this going to be actual retirement, or are you going to claim retirement?
No, this is actual retirement. I want to focus on other races, and all that. Try and get some ACC podiums and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
the pace looks pretty good over there. So.
I mean, you said it yourself. For your final race, you got a very good result, a decent result. I'd say a very good result, considering the pace of the drivers. But also the drama that has happened this race. 3 drivers retiring in the space of 1 corner. Not even a corner, it was just a straight. So, I mean, congratulations for a P5 and a P6. Very strong way to finish out the season. I look forward to seeing who is on your lineup for next season. Hopefully Ryan sticks on with McLaren. I think there is good pace with McLaren if Ryan stays on. No pressure, Ryan.
Yeah.
But you know, we'll see. The market will be open in the next few days for the team principals. So it'll be
depends on the game.
But it's going to be interesting with the new game, because who gets it, who doesn't get it, who's going to be available, who wants to race for what team. It's going to be really tough for all the TPs to try and manage a good team, and stuff like that. I know GG wants to carry on. He had exams this season, so hence why he wasn't here all the time, or ever. But yeah, he will be one of my drivers, and I know maybe 1 other driver, but I just need to confirm if he's getting the game or not. So.
Perfect. Well, congratulations again to the both of you, Webby. Very good race for your final race. Hopefully it is actually your final race. I do not trust you. I feel like I'll be seeing you on track again.
I don't think I'm getting the game, to be fair, so it might have to be. I don't have the game.
No, hopefully we still see you on the track for F2, because I know you and a lot of the other lads enjoy it. And I would love to see a full grid week after week for F2. But,
that exists.
That does exist, and I tried it. I retired very quickly. I gave up.
Yeah, I tried as well. Was P1, then in Championship, then I stopped.
I don't know why you stopped. Could have easily put the crown on. Get that yellow champion role.
I want to
anyway,
wants that either way.
I'm going to wrap up Tier 1 there, so thank you very much for joining. Webby, it was lovely seeing you race. Hopefully... respectfully, I hope I never see you on track again.
I know, yeah. Maybe in a few seasons' time.
I will speak to you guys later.
Yes.
And that'll be it for Tier 1. Thank you everyone for joining me in tonight's session. It has been quite a superb season. A lot has happened. So much carnage, so much chaos, so many drivers losing and gaining. But Soybean, commanding driver from the get-go, from the first 5 red lights to the final 5 red lights, did not stop pushing and kept that charge going to win the championship. Not only does he win the championship for the drivers, he wins it in the constructors with his teammate. I believe, let's have a quick look again, his teammate for Tier 1 was Mick F1, but unfortunately Mick was MIA for quite a few of the races, so it had been a number of reserve drivers, but they still scored a number of points that helped the team hugely in the drivers and in the constructors, which really swayed it in their favour. So massive congratulations as well to Myths. He is the Red Bull team principal. Really, for the second season running, there was no chance he was going to lose Soybean, and he went on to win the race. Final couple notes for Season 10. Sign-ups will be open very, very soon, so keep an eye out for all the announcements. We have recently put out a poll in the race update category for those of you who are part of the Phoenix SimSport Discord server. If you haven't already, join it in the Discord link below. We have got a poll running to find out, what do people enjoy? Are the people looking to actually race in F124? Are we looking and hoping it's not going to be, for lack of a better phrase, a steaming pile of shit? Let's hope that it isn't. And we will see what happens. We do offer, as mentioned in the interviews, F2 on the Fridays. We do have an Asetek Corsa League, which will be ramping up with a lot of activity on the Friday evenings and the Sunday afternoons. Saturday evenings, we have our ACC League. Well, actually it once was in the evenings. It now will be shifted to a new time. Unfortunately, I cannot find that time off the top of my head. But look out for announcements for that, with our Tier 4 and Tier 3 for F123 still going live on the Saturday. Then, of course, on the Sunday, Tiers 1 and 2 will continue ahead. A lot of changes are coming for Tier 1 and Tier 2, so keep your eye out for a lot of updates and a lot of news to be coming out. And don't you worry, I am sticking around. Tier 1 is just as exciting this season. I had a few breaks. Next season will be a continued few breaks, so we will have a few new names, a few new voices, or faces in the circumstance where I know Flynn sometimes likes to put on his camera for commentating to join us for Tier 1. That will be it for Season 9. Thank you everyone for joining. It is now 9:45, and I'm going to go ahead and enjoy my evening before Monday's work schedule gets ahead for tomorrow. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll see you for some off-season events. Who knows what we have in store for you all.